But itemization, I know we wanted to talk really quickly about that, and Joe.
Yeah, okay. So there's a lot to talk about. At BlizzCon, Mr. Shelley himself got a chance to kind of talk about a few things that we've got coming we have going on. We talked about some of the problems that we see with itemization out there today. You know, I think just to kind of reiterate some of those points, as players are going through the experience, you know, it is it's challenging the amount of mental bandwidth you have to use to process all of the items that you're collecting. It's difficult to find upgrades.
Yeah.
Because there's a really low chance for you to get like a perfect rare roll. And generally in ARPGs, it's okay for it to be a low chance for the roll to be perfect, but there's such a high degree of variability in items right now as they stand, where it's like, usually it's like, okay, well, this item is 80% of what I want it to be, and that can feel okay to find that pretty regularly, but that can be kind of hard to find right now in Diablo, right? And feels almost virtually impossible.
It's like you don't even want to look at
200 pairs of gloves and not find a perfect pair of gloves, you know, for your class. You know, there's a lot of things that contribute to this. You know, there's the number of different fixes that we have. There is the fact that we don't have a lot of things in place that say like you can't have like multiple skill ranks, you know, on an item. Like right now, we allow you to have like 3 different plus core skill ranks on an item occasionally, and that doesn't really serve anybody. So one of the things we want to think about a lot as we're looking towards 2024, because like this is December, we're looking back at a year of talking together and trying to paint a picture of like what we want moving forward for us. We want to be thinking more about like we have plans for solving these kinds of problems. We also see that there's not enough like runway with items either. Like there's a lot more they could be doing for the player when they drop for players. So one of the things we want to think about more as we get into 2024 is having items really be kind of like the start of a journey. So when something drops for you as a player, we want that to be like cool. You want to be able to get this and say, this is awesome. I can't wait to do X, Y, and Z to this and make it like really, really great, right? Like this is the perfect thing that I need for my build. And to feel that you've got more chances like to modify and customize that and really incorporate that into what you want for your particular play style. That's important for like player expression, for build making. It does a lot for just making the game more exciting versus like every single time you're looking for an upgrade, it's only whatever immediately drops in the ground, and I kind of have to make a decision based on that. We want to go a lot further than that, I think, in the future for players. Now,
loop filter, or what?
These are the sorts of things I'm talking about are pretty big, right? Like in season 2, we made changes to the resistance system. We made changes to like vulnerable damage being multiplicative, making that additive. We made it I think people that saw we made a huge number of changes to the way that stats work and skills and a bunch of other stuff, right? Huge number of changes, and the reason why we did so much of it at once was because many of these things were very interconnected. And trying to improve these systems by doing like one small portion of it can actually make everything worse. Because this is now like almost like a little island of a different idea that's floating out and not integrated properly into everything else in the game, right? So as we think about the sorts of itemization changes we're looking to make, the reward changes we want to make things more exciting for players to chase. And really, again, if Diablo is a game about killing monsters and getting loot, then killing monsters feels pretty good right now. I think that getting loot has places where we can make improvements. We need to make sure that's holding up its end of the bargain, right? But to make this, the sorts of changes that we're talking about, there's basically a number of other things that are going to need to be adjusted at the same time. So we have plans for a really, really big update for itemization that we want to be able to produce. It's not coming in Season 3. We're looking at Season 4. We want to be able to target a lot of these changes to come out en masse. So in like Season 3, we're not talking about today. We're talking about Season 3 today. But there's still cool stuff that we have coming up. I guess we'll talk. Yeah, sure. We're about to talk like a tiny bit about Season 3. There's still lots of great feedback that we're getting from players about their experience playing in Season 3 right now.
Season 2, yeah.
Yeah, well, sorry, yes. Feedback from Season 2 that we want to be able to try to to incorporate into Season 3.
Yeah, well, and one of the things that we've seen with Season 2, right, is this was you were talking about how we made a lot of changes to itemization. We made a lot of changes to builds. There were some things that got less powerful, but we really I think we did a great job delivering on some of the stuff we talked about back in Season 1 in terms of making, when we make changes to stats or classes or itemization, that we make sure that we're adding lots of new cool stuff.
Yeah, like value,
And,
getting a
you know, I
value
think we
for your
continue
nerf.
to we plan to continue to do that with season 3, right? So, you know, I think we've talked. I've said on social, like, hey, we're not gonna nerf your builds here throughout season 2. We were just playing Ball Lightning, right?
sure, yeah.
Just live here, and we think that's really important because we built Abattoir of Zir based on the balance of the game as it stands in season 2.
Okay.
But then as you get into season 2, you can season 3. No one's going to say any of the right season numbers today. But as you get into season 3, you can expect to see some of those balance changes, kind of like what we saw in season 2, right?
Like,
That's right. So we'll change along those lines. We'll be able to talk about those as we get a little bit closer to the season 3 release date. And there's a bunch of other changes we're making in season.
Well, there's the one thing about, I know you were talking about with itemization. You know, we're prepping a lot of changes, and we've actually we have talked to at least a group of Diablo partners, content creators already about some of the itemization changes that are going to be coming in season 4.
That's right.
So they have actually. There are people aware of some of the details and changes that we're actually offering. So, and we're doing that mostly for, you know, we wanted to get some feedback from and bounce like some ideas that we actually had. So we're really looking forward to, you know, actually going through all of that and making sure and refining it a little bit before we actually put it out in front of everyone. And so there will be more news about itemization as we go through season 3 and into season 4. Obviously, with the big changes that are going to be coming, but we have been actually talking with a select group of people, with our Diablo partners, our content creators, specifically on that. So, and I wanted to make sure like people weren't thinking we're working within like a box or something like that from that end.
Yeah, like Joe said at BlizzCon, like if end game content is one of our highest priorities, itemization is our highest priority, right? Like we're actively working on these things.
Okay.
It's just they take time because they're expansive. And it's going to be better for the game, bringing these things together into one big release. We're very, very excited about it. It was really fun talking to content creators about some of these plans and getting some of that initial feedback. So that's cool. But like, we're in motion. You know, we're working through these things right now. So, but again, that's not all, right? Like, you know, as we look towards season 3 and talk about like the sorts of things that players are having some difficulties with right now, you know, there's a couple things that got brought up. First is Forgotten Souls.
Yes.
Yeah, it's obviously we see that players are having a tougher time getting Forgotten Souls in Diablo 4 in season 2, you know, relative to other points in time. One of the things that we're doing based upon that feedback and feedback about Helltide is actually increasing the Helltide uptime. So basically, Helltide's going to be up every hour for about 55 minutes. It's going to be like a 5-minute break, and then it's going to come back up again. You don't have to run through again.
Poggers!
It's going to make it a lot easier for you to farm those Forgotten Souls up when you're looking for them.
Yeah, we really saw that it worked well with Blood Harvest, and it's something we wanted to bring over to Helltide. I think there are more lessons from
That's
from
what I was literally
Blood Harvest,
complaining about. I
that,
literally
we
said
can
the only
incorporate.
bad thing
This
about
was one that
season
we thought
2
was
is
really
that
important to get in for season 3.
Yeah, and this is just part
It
of
was
like, the
literally-
things we learned through seasons.
Hellgates
that
were
players
literally
really
time
enjoy,
gated.
and it helps
Every
us
other
make the game
hour, you
better.
couldn't collect the
You know,
materials.
there's even like the idea that from season 1 to
This is
season
good.
2, where we brought Malignant Powers kind of back in those unique rings that we announced at BlizzCon and are obviously now out now. Blood Harvest has taught us a lot about, you know, players' expectations of like what they're looking for when it comes to like things like Helltide as well. So it's just some of these learnings that we continuously apply to the game, which has been really great.
Yeah, and I want to talk about another thing that we saw in season 2 that I've sort of been talking about as the 925 problem.
Oh, sure.
Basically, when you first get access to World Tier 4,
Yep.
you can start getting the highest
Super
high
POG
power
items.
immediately from world bosses.
Yep.
And from Duril if someone carries you through Duril. And that, like, Duril totally makes sense. It's a super hard encounter. It's a farming encounter, right? It's level 100. The world bosses probably shouldn't have a guaranteed chance to drop 925, not because we hate having players have good loot, just because, you know, when I was playing through it, I was, 72, and all my gear was 925 at that point. And I felt like, where am I going to go from here? Now, it wasn't all, I had a bunch of garbage affixes, right, like Joe was talking about. But,
Didn't have the best rolls.
but there's another part of this problem, which is that as you get up toward close to 100 and reach 100, it feels like there aren't enough there isn't enough variety in places where you can get 925 gear reliably. Like it can drop from Varshan, but it's a very small
it's
chance.
basically I literally
It
had
can
to
drop
run
from stuff like
Duriel.
East and Ice.
And it just got
and so it
kind of
feels
boring.
like, things like turning in obols, turning in whispers, doing some of those other ladder bosses, and even in some cases, some of the Nightmare Dungeon content.
Yep.
It can feel like, well, I guess I'm just supposed to do Duriel and maybe do the world bosses when they come up.
Yeah, it's
And-
not consistent enough from other sources that aren't Duriel
Yeah.
and aren't the world bosses.
Yeah.
So
So that was where I was
we
pretty
love
much
if you
at.
want to go farm Duriel for Urban Uniques and for unique items. We like the idea that you want to go hit world boss when it's up, and that's fun. But it doesn't feel good if those are the only two ways for you to really like adequately find this kind of these kinds of rewards. So
Yeah.
there's gonna be a balance there. We're gonna be certainly evaluating that. Make sure that it feels like it's a little easier to find 925s in other top
Everybody.
eye power items. In other content.
Hoard your 925 items.
Awesome. Yeah, so we have.
They're about to take
some
them
changes
away from
coming
the
with-
world
with
boss.
Season 3 to based off of feedback that we've gotten from players with Season 2, things around Helltide, things around the 925, the eye level 925 items.
Yeah, but I mean, they're every 3 hours. Why not
But
let
yeah,
them drop
great
some?
to hear. Lots of changes coming up, and of course, Season 4 we have some big changes for itemization that are along the road.
let's talk about Season
I know we
4.
want to jump into Q&A now. Because and this is an opportunity for people in chat to kind
Okay,
of jump
let's
in
go.
and
Oh,
ask their
I'm so
questions.
sorry, Adam, for ruining this transition. So I guess one last thing on itemization. So part of all of this is trying to find more ways to. What's this?
I love the lower
Itemization.
third.
Oh,
This
wait,
is
wait,
like
back.
Q&A. No, back to itemization.
Sorry.
as it should be.
Okay, yeah. So part of all of this is trying to find more ways to communicate, different ways to communicate the what our intentions are, what our plans are. Try and check them against the views of the community. We don't want to overpromise, underdeliver. We want to make sure that we're really happy with the plans. So we're going through this. We're going to continue to try to provide as much detail as we can as we go. We don't. This isn't about kind of creating a grand reveal. That's not the point.
Right.
We want to manage expectations and also make sure that we're really, really happy with what we have, so that when we deliver to players, to be excited about it. So when we're ready to talk more about these things leading into Season 4, we're gonna make sure that we do a whole stream about these changes.
Yeah, it's more about getting it right than keeping it secret.
That's
It's not about.
Oh, yeah.
It's not about. Yeah.
Exactly, and then just goes back to why we've already started talking to even just some of our Diablo partners, our content creators, a little bit about it, just to make sure that we're not working within a box where we're trying to get this right and show it to everyone. So, all right,
That's actually
so
interesting.
Q&A.